Hey everybody, it's another Sunday, another Chelsea game day, and we beat Arsenal 2-0 today. Always gonna give my shout out to Chelsea. I'm wearing my 2014 jersey today in honor of that win. That was a great game, by the way. Hope you guys caught it. I had a game in the Kings Indian defense that I'd like to share with you today, and I've got another Caracan game that I'm going to show you after this one. I'll put it in a separate video. It's kind of standard stuff. White fianchettoed on the Kings side. Which happens sometimes in this defense here. I mean, nothing's unusual yet here, so I don't have a whole lot to say. I went ahead for the C5 break here. I pondered E5 a little bit instead, but I felt like C5 was better. It gave my bishop on G7 the long diagonal, which is what I was hoping for. And so I wanted to break that open here and create some opportunities for this bishop to have a long way to run. He played E4 here, and I went ahead and just captured, queen capture, and knight. So I pick up a tempo here, and then I went ahead and got a little aggressive with my knight here. I wanted to boss this queen around a little bit more and put him a little bit more out of the play before I continue my attack and continue my development. Queen to C7 here. A big question in Black's game, well, in both player's game, is where to put their queen here in the first 10 or 12 moves here. Usually you want to put your queen somewhere. C7 is a great square for your queen in Black in openings like this one, or the Caracan, Sicilian. It develops it, it gets it out here attacking a loose pawn and forces the opponent to react. And that you tend to want to dictate the pace in a game rather than be the one responding. And so with Black, I mean, like a lot of players tend to just think of playing with Black as playing for the draw, and I really think that Black should be a side that you want to win with instead of want to draw with. Probably in my games, I tend to win more frequently with Black than I do with White, just because I know my Black system well with Caracan, and I get to play it a lot because most players in my level play more E4 games than they do D4. As White, I open with D4 primarily, although I'm experimenting with the Vienna game, and I think that might be one of the games I have to show you soon. And so I'm learning the Vienna right now, and so I'm switching over to E4 so that I can kind of get a little bit better at seeing these tactics and working with gambits and things like that early in the game to develop a developmental lead. I'm thinking against E4, E5, I'll play the Vienna, and against the Sicilian, I might play Smith Mora. And they're similar in terms of the development lead you get for the pawns that you invest. And so I've always been a big fan of Smith Mora. I've got an earlier couple of videos on the Smith Mora, so that's probably something I'm aiming to look at in the future. Anyways, I've gotten ahead of myself a little bit here. I expected B3, and that's what I got here. I went ahead and moved my knight, or I'm sorry, my rook off of this long diagonal. This is a little bit of prophylaxis here. I was imagining when lines open up on this diagonal here that this bishop will be pointing at the pawn on B7, which I didn't want to have hanging when I developed my bishop, and I didn't want my rook to be sitting there were I to play B6, so I can develop my bishop out to A6, which is kind of what I was thinking about. I didn't see strong prospects for this bishop on the king side, and so I thought developing queen side made a lot more sense. A6 is a natural square to put that pawn on, or that bishop on, and so that's what I was thinking. So B7 is kind of a way to get out of White's tricks and prepare for my own. He played H3 here. I think it's kind of a weak move. There's nothing wrong with it per se. It's just it's not a strong move. I think it's a waiting move, and I think that Black had stronger options developing the bishop here. Maybe the D2 would have been a little better. Starts getting his back rank connected here. He's looking at developing his queen, or redeploying his queen as opposed to a better square soon. And this bishop gets out of the way. I think it's a bit stronger than H3, which was played over the board. I played B5 here. This is a bit of a mistake here. He can simply just play knight takes B5, and best here is rook takes, C takes, and then taking exchange back over here, and deploy my bishop out, knight d2, and this pawn's protected, and white's slightly better here. So yeah, I didn't really consider the full ramifications of this move here. I was expecting that we'd see something like this instead, which is much better. Obviously, if I were to get that kind of thing, and thinking that that wasn't available, that he might have to find a way to support that pawn, maybe here. You know, if b takes, and either b takes or knight takes. Let's say knight takes here. Then I've got bishop e6, and I'm bearing down on this square here. You know, positions like this are kind of what I was hoping for. B takes, queen takes. His queen side's decimated. I've got my pieces all pointing that way. His king side doesn't look very strong, to be honest. He's got some king safety here, but this isn't a terribly strong formation, and meanwhile his queen side's getting decimated. This is much better for black. And so these kind of variations were what I was seeing. So let's go back here when I made the move b5. Keep in mind this was a blitz game. It was 5 minutes on each side plus a 2-second increment. So this was just enough time to run some quick calculations. Look for 2 or 3 move variations, that sort of thing, before making quick moves. I invested a lot of time in the first 20 moves of this game, and I was down to under a minute by somewhere around this point. And so my opponent still had 3 minutes on his clock. He was moving fast, a lot faster than I was. And so I felt a bit of time pressure, and I felt like I needed to make up some time by making quick moves that seemed reasonable, and see where that got me. So his bishop move now at this point was a poor one. It allows b takes c4. And he played b takes c4. There's a couple of options here. Queen takes works kind of. After rook c1, I'm not real happy. I mean, I'm up by a pawn. I'm doing well. But he's certainly bearing down with some force here. Moves like this are the types of things that I'm probably looking at. So we'd be looking at an exchange here, and e5. So this is the kind of stuff that would have resulted there if I had just played in that fashion. So b takes, queen takes, and he played a3 here. Now there's an option here that I missed. It's kind of hard to see when you're playing blitz probably for any level, let alone for me sitting where I do in blitz. I'm roughly 1400 at this point. You can see what it say over here, 1384. My blitz rating's always been garbage. I'm just shy of 1900 in correspondence, and the upper 1600s in standard probably. But I don't play a lot of blitz. I try not to anyway, because it doesn't give me time to think. So yeah, I'm really shoddy here at 1400. So anyways, the tactic that I missed here, and that you might not have seen either, was bishop takes here. And after bishop takes, I can play knight d3. He's got to move his queen because of that threat there. And then after knight takes e4, you can see I'm piling up here on this piece. I'm piling up on this piece. And after the queen exchange, I get to win the exchange here. And so in this situation, we both got 4 pieces. He's got a bishop here. I'm sorry, he's got 5 pieces, including a bishop here. I don't have any bishops, but I do have 3 pawns and an exchange for the piece. And so black's doing much better in the situation, even sans bishop. So I mean, there's variations that could have followed here. So yeah, I missed the bishop move here. I exposed an attack on his queen and said black's still fine. Put my bishop out. And after knight d2, at this point I looked at my clock and I had about 45 seconds. And I was quickly trying to figure out what to do with my queen. I didn't see very many good options here. e6 was the only other square that I thought to play to, and it was the next. It was the best move. I could have played to queen e6 here, um, and things would have been fine. Probably rook e or d1, something like that. So I mean, this is what should have happened had I played my queen back. What I did instead was kind of jam it forward. The problem is after rook d1 here, and I played knight takes d4, or I'm sorry, knight takes e4 here. And this is kind of where we both made a blunder back to back. You'll notice in my videos sometimes that's the case where I make a blunder, my opponent makes a blunder, and it's in tactical situations in the middle game here at this level where you see these kind of things. Looking over the game afterwards, I spotted knight d takes would have worked out well. Originally, I calculated knight e takes here, or I'm sorry, knight c takes, and I saw that after bishop takes and queen takes, that I had some good moves. The problem is that if he uses knight d takes, which is what he didn't see, then we run into variations like this. I gotta play queen e6 and he scoops the bishop. I'll get a pawn for my trouble, I guess. But now white's doing much better. And that's no good. So that's the variation I missed. And that was the problem with jamming my queen in this far. It led to situations where I had to make tactical decisions in a hurry, in a situation that was pretty tense. I should have played the safe move and blitz, which was queen to e6. And instead I thought like maybe I'd be a little bit more aggressive and put my queen right in the firing line here. And once I got up there, I was like, like hesitating to drop the piece, and I just went ahead and did it. So bishop takes here fails because I get to play queen takes c3 for free, and if he wants to play, he can play. Well, this is what happened over the board here. After bishop takes, rook takes here, and black's looking just much better. I have an exchange. I have a couple of pawns. I'm doing well. If instead here he had played bishop takes in this fashion, and queen takes e1, queen takes, bishop takes, and I'm still looking quite good. So either way, that could have worked out well. So this is the variation that we ended up in. So at this point, I realized like I'm up boatloads of material. My pieces are well deployed, and I'm ready to lash out in the center now with my pawns. I've been patient. When you play a defense like the King's Indian or Queen's Indian defense, a lot of times you find yourself without center pawns, and you're attacking the center with your pieces, and your pawns are supporting your pieces rather than in classical chess openings where you occupy the center with pawns and defend them with and attack them and defend them with pieces. So these modern openings are games in which you see the pawns moving up the center of the board in the middle of the game instead of at the beginning of the game. He backs his bishop up here. At this point, I can see that I can force a trade. I move my king here to prepare for f6, and then once that happens, then the trade's inevitable. And I'm real happy trading pieces at this point. I'm just trying to get his material off the board since I have an advantage. So you can see how this was real attractive for me. Black's just winning at this point here. He backs his bishop off. And I had a couple of options here. Rook b2 was probably the strongest. Just locks his king out of any of this stuff and prepares me for all sorts of attacks. So this would have been quite strong had I played it. I didn't play a bad move. I played d3, and here I doubled my rooks on the E file here, preparing for E2. I could have instead just played rook E2 immediately, and then after the king moves here, then I can offer up the exchange there, just simplify things and get my pawn out here where it's passed and running. Let's back up here. I doubled up this way, and then decided to trade the pawns this way. Now I saw this variation in how he could mount an attack on my king this way, and I thought, you know what, like pawn for pawn, rook for rook, whatever it takes to let my a pawn run free. So I gave him a couple of checks, and then moved my king, preparing for his attack. King g4, and I know it's coming, so I go ahead and take the pawn and welcome the rook exchange. He could have claimed a draw here. At this point, I realized that I'd actually repeated this position, but he didn't, and that's it's his miss. He was behind and also claimed it and didn't. Okay, so here I have what should be a one endgame here. Rook and pawn versus bishop is a winning game. Rook versus bishop is technically a draw in almost all scenarios. And my problem here is that I missed a couple of tactics where I could have just flat out won this game and ended myself up in a rook versus bishop endgame in which I was ill prepared. So I'm just sneaking my king over here to put a touch on this pawn. And check him away. And then make room, force his king back. Make a threat, move my king closer. So I want to inch this pawn up the board. This way. Waiting moves here. And now I'm looking at making a check. So rook a1 here forces his king away, and I can just play a4 and run away, a3 and run away. Now there's several winning moves here. I played a2, which is fine. There's some other options here just to get fancy. I won't get into the variations here for the sake of time. This video is getting long enough, but a2 is a winning move here. Okay, so here we are in the situation here, and this is where my endgame knowledge failed me. I've never studied rook versus bishop without pawns on the board, I like to think of myself as an endgame guy. I'm pretty good, obviously with two bishops, it's pretty easy. With a bishop and knight versus a king, that's one that doesn't come up too often over the board, but I've actually taught it to some of my chess students, including third graders, and they picked it up pretty well. So that's a real fun endgame to learn. This is one that for some reason or another I always thought I could figure out over the board, and so I never even looked into it. And I thought right away, like, this is probably just a draw here, and I didn't realize that this bishop is pinned and the king has nowhere to move to defend that bishop. And so all I have to do is make a waiting move with my king, and his king has to move away. So a4 or b4 doesn't matter. We'll call it b4, and I've got bishop. And now we've got very obvious methods of mating that won't take long. Houdini's telling me it's 13 moves. I don't care at this point. I've got 12 seconds on my clock or so right about here. I can pick up 2 seconds every move, and I can make my moves fast in this endgame without any worry. So that's a winning position I found myself in right here when he snatched the pawn. Instead, I thought the game was drawn, and I just started thinking, like, maybe I can trick it somewhere, and I let his bishop get out here. Now, in this case, there actually is still there's still winning moves here. Rook e1 is one of them. Say after king d3. I can play rook e8, and I'm looking at setting up the same kind of situation that I had before. So, with king a4, rook a8 check, king b5 and I take. If he goes this way, same thing, and I take. And finally, if he moves his bishop, something like this, then I've got my winning moves. Same game here. Just make a waiting move with my king, or I'm sorry, with my rook. This king has to back away, and then I've got mate 2. So king 1, king 7, and we have mate. So those were resources that I had available to me that I didn't know the end game, and so it came up in a game where I should have won by all rights. I had the material advantage heading into the end game, and I squandered it because of just a lack of end game knowledge. And so I'd like to encourage you all just through this game to if you don't know the opening over the board, hopefully you've got time on your clock to think through some things and make moves that will solve it. We actually went 50 moves at this point, just bouncing around the board where I was trying to trap him, and he had the time on his clock to avoid the traps until we hit 50 moves and he couldn't draw. So we all actually move 134 at the point where he finally clicked a draw after and just draw. So anyways, I hope the game was instructive to you, and please leave some comments here if you have any. Please like, share, subscribe, whatever you can do, and I'll keep churning out more content for you guys. Hope you enjoy my videos. Let me know in the comments. Thanks.